The rumors around the house. They say every city has that one house of one no one talks about during the day, and no one dares look at after dark. In San Diego, that house stands alone at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, its windows boarded up, its lawn forever overgrown, and its presence unsettling. The locals simply call it the house on Ash Street. On the surface, it's just an old Victorian-era home, faded white paint, chipped shutters, and a porch that creaks even in the absence of footsteps. But the stories that circle this place are anything but ordinary. They're whispered in diners, muttered in late-night taxi rides, and passed down through generations. No one agrees on exactly how it started, but everyone agrees on one thing: that house is haunted. A town's silent warning. Ask the residents nearby, and they'll shift uncomfortably. Some will change the subject, others will stare off into the distance, as if remembering something they've tried hard to forget. But then, there are the brave or foolish who speak up, like Mr. Harold, who's lived 2 streets down since 1978. He remembers the screams. He says he used to hear them echoing across the neighborhood around 2 or 3 a.m. Not angry screams, but screams of sheer panic, like someone was being chased, or trapped, or worse. At first, he thought it was kids playing pranks, but night after night, the sound never stopped. Then came the shadows. He remembers one night, stepping out to get the newspaper early in the morning. He looked up and saw a figure in the upstairs window, a tall, thin silhouette just standing there emotionless, watching. He waved, thinking maybe the house was finally sold. But the figure didn't move, didn't blink, just stared. Later that day, when he passed by the house again, he saw the same window shattered, and from the inside, no one had moved in. No one was supposed to be there. The whispering tree. Teenagers dared each other to go near the place. Some tried to camp in the backyard. Most didn't last more than an hour. They spoke of a tree in the back, an ancient, twisted oak that never lost its leaves. Not even in winter, a tree that whispered. Yes, whispered. Those who dared to stand near it claimed they could hear voices. Sometimes soft crying. Other times, clear phrases like "help me" or "get out." One kid, Miguel, who grew up just a few blocks away, swears he heard his own name being called from the tree, even though no one else was around. The vanishing mailman. In the early 90s, something strange happened. A new mailman named Derek was assigned the route that included Ash Street. He was new to the city, didn't know the local rumors. So when he noticed mail piling up at the haunted house, he decided to do his job: knock on the door, check in, maybe leave a note. That was the last time anyone saw Derek. His van was found parked 2 blocks away, doors locked, engine off. His mail bag was discovered at the edge of the Ash Street house property, dumped in a bush, like someone had thrown it. But Derek was never found. No trace, no signs of a struggle, just gone. And from that day forward, no mail was ever delivered to the Ash Street house again. Lights with no power. For years, the house had no tenants, no utility accounts. The power company confirmed that no electricity had run through the place for at least 2 decades. But people still saw lights, flickering, flashing, sometimes full-blown room illumination in the upstairs bedroom, the one with the broken window. Some believed it was trespassers, but police patrols found nothing, no footprints, no signs of entry. One officer, who wished to remain unnamed, said he responded to a call about the house one night. A neighbor had reported screaming and flashing lights. When he arrived, the house was silent, completely dark. He circled it, flashlight in hand, and saw movement behind the curtain upstairs. He radioed for backup. By the time backup arrived, the curtain had been ripped down from the inside. The woman in the mirror. Not all stories involve being inside the house. Some are reflected, like the story of Elise, a college student who rented a house directly across the street. She had no interest in ghosts, didn't believe in the paranormal, But she couldn't deny what she saw. It started with small things. Her bathroom mirror fogged up even when she didn't use hot water. She'd wipe it, only for it to fog again in seconds. Sometimes writing would appear faint, smeared words like "see me" or "don't forget." One night, while brushing her teeth, she looked up and saw a woman behind her. Pale skin, dark sunken eyes, long tangled black hair. Elise turned in panic, but no one was there. She checked every room, locked all the doors. Then she returned to the bathroom, and the mirror showed the woman again, this time closer. She moved out the next day, left the city, never returned. Dogs always know. Animals react to things we can't see. And every pet that's ever come near the Ash Street house seems to know something we don't. Dogs bark frantically if walked past the house. Some try to pull away, others freeze entirely, tails between their legs. A few even whine or growl at seemingly nothing, gears pinned back, eyes locked on invisible figures. One story tells of a woman walking her German Shepherd past the house. The dog suddenly stopped, stared at the gate, and let out a howl so eerie, the woman swore it sounded human. Then it yanked free and sprinted away, never to be walked past that route again. Even cats, famously curious, refused to go near it. Disappearances no one could explain. Several people over the years have gone missing near Ash Street. Not dozens, just a handful, but enough to draw suspicion. A jogger, a homeless man, a teenager filming a ghost hunting video. Each case had the same chilling pattern. Last seen near the house, then never again. The teenager's case was particularly eerie. He had a GoPro strapped to his chest. His final video was uploaded automatically to his cloud before the camera shut off. In the clip, he walks toward the front gate, nervously joking about how creepy the house looks. Then he says, "Did you hear that?" He pans the camera to the side. Nothing, just trees. He laughs uneasily. Then the video glitches. A screeching noise plays. And his final words, "What the?" The camera shuts off. He was never found. A name carved in wood. For those who dare to peer over the rotted fence. Some say there's a name carved into the porch's wooden beam. The name, Emily. No one knows who she was. No records of any Emily living there. No gravestone matching her name nearby. Just that name etched deep, like it was carved in desperation. Like it was the last thing someone wanted the world to remember. And on certain days when the wind blows just right, some say you can hear her name whispered through the cracks of the broken porch. The house remains. Years have passed. Developers have tried to buy the land. Demolition permits were submitted. But every attempt failed. One contractor claimed his equipment refused to start when parked near the house. Others walked off the job entirely, refusing to return after a single visit. One even claimed to see a little girl staring at him from inside while the entire team was outside. Now, no one touches the house. It remains standing, untouched by time. A skeleton of a structure hiding something far darker than just dust and decay. And every so often, new rumors begin. Of someone seeing lights, hearing voices, or feeling watched when no one's there. Because the house on Ash Street is more than just haunted. It remembers. The first owner disappears 1892. The story of the house on Ash Street truly begins in the year 1892. Back then, San Diego was still growing. A sun-washed frontier city clinging to the edges of California's coastline. Dirt roads, horse-drawn carriages, and the faint scent of the Pacific in the breeze. It was during this era that a man named Thomas Bradford arrived with a dream. Bradford was a former East Coast businessman, recently widowed, and hoping for a fresh start. He purchased a plot of land on what would become Ash Street, just outside the center of town. There he built a 2-story Victorian home, proud, ornate, with dark wood and sweeping gables. Locals admired it. They called it the grandest house on the street. He moved in alone, no children, no servants, just crates of books, a leather journal he kept close at all times, and a dog named Jasper. He was quiet but polite, kept to himself, and was often seen walking into town with his dog. He frequented the general store, sometimes the church, but never lingered for conversation. The only person who visited regularly was the local librarian, Mrs. Langford, who delivered him rare books and newspapers. She said he was obsessed with topics like spiritualism, seances, and the afterlife. She thought it was just grief, but then vanished. A morning like any other. It was October 3rd, 1892, a Monday. The milkman arrived as usual. He noted the front gate was slightly open, swinging in the wind. That was odd. Bradford always kept it latched. As he walked up the porch, he noticed Jasper's loyal dog scratching and whining at the front door. The poor thing was shivering, its tail between its legs. The milkman knocked. No answer. He set the bottles down and returned to his cart. But by the next day, the same scene greeted him. Dog outside. Door closed, no sign of life. After the third day, he alerted the sheriff. The investigation begins. Sheriff George Mallory led the investigation. It didn't take long for him to realize something was wrong. The front door was unlocked, but the house was eerily quiet. Dust floated through rays of sunlight. The dog ran inside the moment the door creaked open, barking up the stairs, then whimpering. Something was off. They searched the house. Everything was in place, furniture undisturbed. Dinner table still set, the fireplace cold. No signs of forced entry, no signs of a struggle. It was as if Thomas Bradford had simply walked out and never returned. Until they reached the study. Blood on the wall. The study was Bradford's private space lined with tall bookshelves, papers scattered across the desk, and a large armchair near the window. And on the far wall, written in something that appeared to be blood, was a smear, a handprint, then another, and then a long, vertical streak as if someone had been dragged downward, clawing at the wall. But there was no body, no trail. Just a faint metallic scent that never left the room. No matter how many times it was scrubbed clean. No witnesses, no clues. Neighbors claimed they hadn't seen or heard anything. No screams, no carriage leaving in the night. Just silence. Mrs. Langford, the librarian, said she had delivered a book on ancient Mesopotamian burial rites to Bradford 2 days before he disappeared. He had been jittery, sweating, muttering to himself. The last thing he said to her was, "I think I've opened something I shouldn't have." She laughed at the time, assuming he meant a book. Now, it didn't seem so funny. A disturbing journal entry. Among Bradford's belongings was his journal. Most entries were routine. Weather notes, meal plans, philosophical reflections. But the final few pages took a darker turn. He wrote of hearing whispers at night, low, indecipherable voices speaking in languages he couldn't place. He described dreams of being pulled underwater, unable to breathe, as shadowy figures surrounded him. Then came the final entry. "Tonight I light the candles again. I've followed the instructions perfectly this time. The veil is thin. I will make contact. If I fail, if I disappear, know that it was real. The space between is alive." There was no date, just those words, and a drop of dried blood smeared across the page. The dog refused to stay. After Bradford disappeared, the sheriff tried to leave Jasper with a local family. But the dog wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep. It sat at the window, whining at the direction of the house. After 2 nights, it jumped through a glass pane and ran straight back to the Ash Street home. It refused to leave the front porch, scratching at the door for hours. Eventually, the dog stopped eating altogether. It was found dead a week later. The strange thing was, its eyes were still open and filled with terror. A town begins to whisper. Whispers spread. The newspaper published a short article. Local man missing, no signs of foul play. But townspeople knew better. Some believed Bradford had gone mad. taken his own life, and hidden the body. Others suspected murder, perhaps a rival from the East Coast. But then, rumors began to take root. A child claimed he saw Mr. Bradford in the upstairs window days after the disappearance, pale and unmoving. Another resident, a midwife passing by, claimed she heard piano music playing from inside, though the sheriff had confirmed the piano had no strings, and at night, passersby swore they saw flickering candlelight inside the study. The house is left alone. No one would buy the property. The real estate agent at the time reduced the price to a fraction of its worth. Still, no one came. It remained vacant for a year, then two. Eventually, the house was sealed, doors locked, windows boarded. The town tried to forget, but the rumors never stopped. An urban legend is born. Teenagers started sneaking into the house on dares. Some claimed they saw blood still on the walls, though it had been painted over a dozen times. One group of boys in 1901 claimed they found a cold spot in the study, so cold their breath fogged up oven in the middle of summer. Another said they heard knocking sounds from inside the floor. One girl, 15 years old, walked out of the house after a dare and never spoke again. Her hair turned white within the year. Her parents moved her to an asylum outside of Los Angeles. She lived 30 more years and never said another word. A house with memory. It said the house remembers its first owner. Visitors report seeing a figure walking from room to room, always tall, wearing a coat, with a strange tilt to his head. One medium claimed the spirit wasn't trapped, it was guarding something. They said the house had become a portal, that something had been opened in 1892 and never closed, and that Thomas Bradford was no longer just missing. He was part of the house, still missing, still watching. To this day, no trace of Thomas Bradford has ever been found. No bones, no belongings out of place. Only the faint bloodstains that return, no matter how many times they're scrubbed. Only the smell of iron that lingers. Only the cold room that never warms. And the sense that someone is watching just out of view. Because whatever happened that night in 1892 wasn't natural. And the house on Ash Street has never been the same. The tenants who fled. By the turn of the century, the house on Ash Street stood silent and hollow. Its once pristine white paint had faded to a pale gray. Vines crawled up its sides like veins, and the shutters hung loose, creaking in the wind. No one lived there anymore, not since Thomas Bradford disappeared without a trace in 1892. But San Diego was growing. The city pushed outward, and eventually, developers saw opportunity in forgotten places. By the 1910s, the Bradford house had a new name among realtors, a fixer-upper Victorian with charm. They left out the rumors, the whispers, the warnings. Tenants began to move in, but no one stayed for long. The first family, the Crawfords, 1914. In 1914, James and Eleanor Crawford moved in with their 3 children. James was a railway worker, Eleanor, a homemaker. They were ordinary people, excited to move into a home they could afford, with plenty of space for their kids to grow. The first week was peaceful. The second week was not. It began with noises in the night, soft crying, as if from a child. Eleanor would rise and check on her kids, only to find them fast asleep. But the sound didn't stop. It came every night, always around 3 a.m. Soon, the crying was joined by knocking, soft at first, then louder, at the bedroom door, at the windows, once on the inside of their wardrobe. James thought it was a prank. He stayed up with a shotgun one night, at 2:57 a.m. He heard footsteps on the stair, slow, deliberate, but no one was there. The family moved out 3 weeks after moving in. They didn't take the furniture. Eleanor later told a neighbor, "There was something in that house that didn't want us there." The newlyweds, Daniel and Ruth Hale, 1922. 8 years later, the house was rented to newlyweds, Daniel and Ruth Hale. They were told the stories, They didn't believe them. They lasted 12 days. Ruth claimed she saw a woman in a black dress standing at the foot of their bed one night. The woman whispered her name, then vanished into the floor. Daniel began waking up with scratches across his chest. He accused Ruth of doing it in her sleep. She denied it. On the final night, Ruth awoke to find Daniel standing in the hallway, staring at the wall. His eyes were wide open, but he was unresponsive. When he finally blinked, he whispered, "She says this house is hers." They left before sunrise. The landlord found every mirror in the house shattered. The boarding house years 193019 for 5. During the Great Depression, the home was converted into a boarding house. Cheap rent, no questions asked. It hosted dozens of people over the years. Drifters, artists, families in crises. Most left with only vague complaints, cold spots, strange sounds, flickering lights. But a few experiences stood out. Mrs. Agnes Mulroney 1932, an elderly widow renting room 3. She began to suffer from night terror, screaming that someone was pulling her through the mattress. Other boarders reported hearing laughter coming from her room at night, deep, inhuman laughter that didn't match her frail voice. She was found dead in her bed one morning, her eyes wide open, her mouth frozen mid-scream. The coroner said it was a heart attack, but her fingernails were broken, as if she had been trying to claw her way out of the bed. Tommy Jackson 1935, a 10-year-old boy who lived in the house with his mother. He claimed he had an imaginary friend named Emily who lived in the walls. He would talk to Emily every night, whispering, laughing, sometimes crying. One day, he told his mother that Emily had asked him to bring a knife to bed. They left the next day. Years later, Tomino, an adult, returned to the neighborhood. He stood outside the gate for over an hour, unmoving. When asked why, he said, "She still talks to me, even now." The mysterious burning 1947. In 1947, a war veteran named Harold Beckett bought the house, hoping to renovate it and start a family. He was tough, practical. He believed none of the stories. He invited his fiancée to move in once renovations were done. But one night, neighbors reported seeing flames in the windows. Smoke poured from the second floor. Firefighters arrived quickly, but when they entered the house, nothing was burning. Not a single ember. No damage, no fire. Just thick smoke that dissipated without explanation. Beckett was found in the bathtub, unconscious, when revived. He claimed he'd seen a man with no face standing in the mirror. The faceless man pointed at him and whispered, "You don't belong." Beckett never returned. He sold the house at a loss and left San Diego. The family that never spoke 1958. In 1958, the Harrows moved in a quiet family of 4. The father, a school principal. The mother, a painter, 2 young girls. They stayed longer than most, nearly 6 months. But something happened that winter, something no one talks about. One of the daughters stopped speaking entirely. The other was hospitalized after cutting off all her hair, saying it had spiders in it. The mother began painting only one image over and over, a staircase, covered in blood. Eventually, the family left. They never gave a reason. The house stood empty again. The police report 1967. In 1967, 2 police officers were dispatched to investigate reports of screaming from the house. They approached carefully, expecting squatters, perhaps. They entered through the back door. Everything was dark. One officer, Deputy Harris, described a cold pressure in the air, like stepping into a freezer. They moved room by room, calling out. No response. Then they heard it, crying. It came from the upstairs hallway. When they climbed the stairs, the sound stopped. The hallway was empty except for one thing, a trail of wet footprints, small, barefoot, as if a child had just walked through water. But there was no water source upstairs, no broken pipe, no roof leak. The prints stopped abruptly in front of the attic door. When they opened it, nothing. Just us. The official report listed it as unfounded. A pattern of departure. By the 1970s, the pattern was clear. People would move in families, couples, even solo tenants. And then, within weeks, sometimes days, they'd leave. Some would break their lease. Others would abandon belongings entirely. A few would go missing. The landlords stopped asking questions. The neighbors stopped making eye contact. Real estate agents stopped trying. And the house became something else. Not just a building, but a wound. Something that never healed. Something that rejected anyone who stepped inside. Survivors' stories. In the 1980s, a local journalist, Kelly Reyes, began collecting testimonies from former tenants. Her article, titled Ash Street, Home of the Unwanted, was pulled from publication before it went to print due to legal threats. But Kelly kept her notes. They later surfaced online, decades later. Some quotes from her interviews. "We heard a woman crying every night. I thought it was the neighbors, until we realized the sound came from inside our closet. The hallway would stretch. I'm serious. It got longer. I could walk for a full minute and still not reach the end. I saw my wife go into the bathroom. I followed her. The room was empty. She was asleep in bed the whole time. Something lived in the basement. We never found stairs going down, but we heard it. Breathing. Nowhere left to rent. Eventually, no one dared to live there." By the early 2000s, the house had become a forbidden zone. The lawn grew wild, windows shattered, birds avoided the rooftop. Teenagers tagged it with graffiti for the paint to peel off overnight. One man tried to squat inside in 2012. He lasted 2 nights. When found, he was curled in a corner, rocking back and forth, muttering, "They never sleep, they never blink." A house that doesn't forget. Whatever lives inside the house, whatever claimed Thomas Bradford, terrified the Crawfords, drove Ruth Hale to madness, and left a trail of weeping. Broken tenants not gone away. The crying is still heard. The knocking still echoes. And for those who dare to enter, even briefly, the message remains the same. You do not belong here. Because the house doesn't want tenants. It doesn't want owners. It wants to be left alone. And yet, it watches, waits, because someone always comes back. The electronics go haywire. The house on Ash Street had long since earned its reputation as cursed, haunted, or worse. People whispered about crying in the walls, faceless figures, and sudden disappearances. But in the modern age, a new kind of evidence began to surface: electronic disturbances. It began subtly: flickering lights, static over radios, camera batteries that drained instantly. But as technology advanced, so did the strangeness, and what was once only hearsay became captured, digitized, and uploaded for the world to see. What no one expected was that this house would fight back against anything trying to document it. The first recording, the electrician's tape 1993. In 1993, a man named Leonard Fitch was hired to inspect the house's electrical wiring. The city had taken ownership after years of abandonment, and developers were considering restoring the property. Leonard was a seasoned professional, but even he felt a weight pressing against his chest the moment he crossed the threshold. He brought with him a VHS camcorder to document the wiring layout and any damage. His plan was simple: record, inspect, report. The footage was later recovered. What it shows is deeply unsettling. The tape. 0:00 Leonard enters the front door. His voice is calm as he narrates his movements. 0:13 The front hallway lights flicker rapidly, though he hasn't touched the switch. 1:47 He passes by the study door. His camcorder screen glitches, and audio cuts out. To 12 he mutters, "What the hell?" and swings the camera back toward the door. There's nothing there. 3:08 Upstairs, he reaches for the light pull. Before his hand makes contact, the bulb explodes. 3:52 his breathing grows heavier. The frame shakes slightly. 4:15 on playback, a faint figure appears behind him in the hallway mirror. Leonard does not react. 4:40 the camera suddenly shuts off. Leonard was later found unconscious in the hallway. He claimed he'd been pushed, but there were no signs of anyone else in the house. His report, "The wiring's fine, it's something else. Radios that whisper." In 1999, paranormal investigator Dale Simmons and his team conducted a brief, 3-day investigation inside the house. It would be the last time Dale ever entered a haunted location. They brought standard gear, EMF readers, temperature gauges, night vision cameras, and old analog radios, the kind that don't rely on the internet and pick up stray signals. On the second night, one of the radios tuned to a dead channel crackled to life. A woman's voice whispered, "Don't record me." Then static, then silence. When Dale rewound the recording, the voice wasn't there. The audio showed nothing but white noise, but everyone in the room had heard it clearly. The radios continued to act up. One started playing music that hadn't been broadcast in Decadessa 1930s waltz with no station ID. Then they all shut off simultaneously. Lights that disobey. The light fixtures in the house how rewired, replaced, and reinstalled countless times refused to behave. Contractors reported that new bulbs would burst, even if the electricity was shut off. On one occasion, a lamp was seen turning on and off in a perfect rhythmic pattern, as though tapping out a message in Morse code. A paranormal group from Arizona brought in specialized lighting monitors. Their findings were bizarre. Lights flashed when no power was present. The flickering matched EMF spikes suggesting something was trying to communicate. One bulb dimmed until it was nearly dark, then blazed with full power for exactly 13 seconds before dying permanently. The data suggested intelligent control. But by what? The security camera incident 2008. In 2008, a real estate company attempted to list the house again, marketing it as a unique restoration opportunity. Before opening for private viewings, they installed a modern security system, motion-activated cameras, full DVR backups, infrared night vision. The cameras recorded continuously for 3 days before failing. The footage was reviewed by a technician named Emily Tran. Her notes, filed quietly and later leaked online, include the following entries. Day 1. Motion alerts triggered in the upstairs hallway at 2:03 a.m. Playback shows nothing, just fog drifting across the frame. Infrared shows a cold spot shaped like a human figure. It appears to hover, then vanish. Day 2. Living room camera records 14 seconds of static, then resumes. In that moment, a small shadow darting across the floor is visible like a child crawling. Day 3. 1:46 a.m. Every camera triggers simultaneously. Frame by frame, a distorted face appears in the dining room window. No body, just the face. At the exact same moment, the power to the house shorts out. The entire DVR system fries. All data erased except what Emily saved before it crashed. She quit her job the next day. Phones go dead. Multiple people have reported that cell phones don't work inside the house. Not just weak signal, total failure. One YouTuber, filming a short horror challenge video, described her phone going from 80% battery to 0 in under a minute. When she stepped outside, the battery jumped back to 78%. Another visitor claimed his phone called his mother without being touched. When she answered, all she heard was a high-pitched wail, then silence. His call log showed no outgoing calls. A night of flickering hell 2016. In 2016, a team of amateur ghost hunters live-streamed from inside the Ash Street house. The stream was meant to last for hours. It ended after 30 minutes abruptly and terrifyingly. Thousands of viewers witnessed the feed. Here's what they saw. The team sets up in the living room. Lights flicker. They laugh it off. As they begin their EVP session, one camera tilts on its own. The team argues, blaming each other. None of them touched it. At 26 minutes, the screen fractures into digital noise. A shadow moves behind one of the investigators. Viewers begin commenting, "There's someone behind you." Then the screen goes black. Audio continues for 6 more seconds. A voice, unlike any of the team members, says, "You're not supposed to see this." The stream cuts. The video is removed from the platform within the hour. None of the team have ever spoken publicly about what happened. EMF madness. EMF electromagnetic field meters are a staple of paranormal investigation. They detect fluctuations in electric fields often associated with paranormal activity. In the Ash Street house, the EMF readings are beyond explanation. The meters spike to dangerous levels in empty rooms. Readings form patterns pulsing in groups of 3s. In one case, the EMF surged so violently that the meter cracked. It's as if something inside the house is not just emitting energy, it's aware it's being measured. The digital voice recorder files. One of the few remaining physical pieces of evidence came from an audio recorder, placed in the attic in 2019. Paranormal researcher Noah Ridge left it running overnight. The recorder was untouched, the batteries full, and no one entered the attic that night. When Noah played the file back the next morning, it started with 3 hours of silence. Then, at 3:03 a.m., a voice whispered, "You shouldn't have come here," followed by heavy breathing. A second voice whispered, "He's still in the wall." The rest of the recording was filled with white noise and low growling like a voice speaking backward. Experts ran it through audio software. When reversed, it said, "You belong to us now." The house reacts. The conclusion is chilling. The house resists documentation. Every time someone tries to capture its essence, its energy, it lashes out. Sometimes with power surges, sometimes with audio glitches, and sometimes with messages that cannot be explained. What kind of force reacts to technology? What kind of presence understands cameras, microphones, and live feeds? Either it's something deeply intelligent, or something ancient and aware, simply adapting. Nothing stays online for long. Dozens of recordings have been uploaded over the years. Footage of lights turning on by themselves, audio files with faint whispering, security camera clips of movement where no one stood. But again and again, these files disappear, deleted without explanation. Channels get flagged, content vanishes overnight, even backups become corrupted. It's as if the house controls its image, allowing just enough to leak out to spread fear, but never enough to be believed. And anyone who tries to expose too much, they either disappear from the public, or go silent forever. A force beyond reason. So many questions remain. Is the house haunted by spirits? Or has it become something else, a living entity born of trauma, fear, and endless attention? Whatever the truth is, the electronics have made one thing certain. The house knows. It sees the lens. It hears the recordings. And sometimes, it whispers back. The sealed bedroom upstairs. Some say every haunted house has a room you just don't enter. In the house on Ash Street, it was the bedroom at the end of the upstairs hallway, a door that no one touched, a knob that never turned, a space kept closed for over 40 years. Not by accident, by design. This room was sealed, not merely locked, but physically buried, screwed shut, nailed over, with iron brackets bolted into the wooden frame. No one knew what was inside. No blueprints mentioned it. And for decades, no one dared to open it. Until one man did. The man who opened the door. In 1981, a contractor named Raymond Carver was hired by the city to assess the structure of the Ash Street house. Developers were once again considering renovation. They needed a full inspection before permits could be filed. Raymond was thorough, brave, skeptical. When he reached the upstairs hallway and found the sealed door, He asked the obvious question, why would someone bolt a bedroom shut? The housing official with him replied flatly, no one's opened it in at least for decades. We don't go in there. Raymond didn't listen. The opening. It took 6 hours to remove the bolts, screws, nails, and rusted hinges. As the final piece of metal came free, Raymond braced himself, hand on the knob. The air around the door had grown thick. The housing official stood at the stairs, unwilling to come any closer. Raymond turned the knob. It clicked. The door creaked open, revealing a perfectly preserved bedroom, untouched by time but filled with something far more disturbing. The room within. Dust floated in shafts of stale light. The air was heavy with a metallic tang. Inside the room was a wooden bed frame, its sheets rotted and yellowed. A dresser, its mirror cracked from the inside. A rocking chair, slowly swaying though no wind moved it. And worst of all, blood. Dried blood, streaked down the walls, smeared across the floorboards, and pooled under the bed like something had bled for Arthur days. But what chilled Raymond to his core were the symbols. The symbols on the walls, scrawled in dark, reddish-brown ink or blood were dozens of markings. Not random scribbles, not graffiti. Symbols, geometric shapes, spirals, circles within circles, and something like eyes, dozens of eyes. Watching, always watching. Each wall was covered in them, some drawn carefully with precision, others wild and frantic, layered over one another as if someone had been drawing in a frenzy. Over and over, trying to trap something or maybe release it. Raymond took photos. He sketched a few into his notebook, but every time he tried to trace the patterns, he got a headache so severe he nearly passed out. Later analysis by a symbologist at a local university revealed nothing in any known language, culture, or occult system. It's like someone invented their own alphabet, she said. But for what? The journal beneath the floorboards. Raymond returned the next day to document the room more thoroughly. While prying open a loose floorboard near the bed, he discovered a leather-bound journal, tied shut with a string. The cover was dry, brittle, and marked only with a single word, scratched deeply into the leather. Emily. Inside, the pages were written in a shaky, childlike hand. The entries started normal. March 3rd. It's cold again. I heard the crying last night. Mom says it's just the wind. March 10th. I don't like the mirror. It makes faces when I don't. March 12th. He lives in the wall. He said his name is Mr. No Eyes. Then things escalated. March 15th. I cut my finger and made the circle. He said now I can hear them too. March 18th. The door is locked. I screamed but no one came. I think I'm still asleep. Maybe I never woke up. The final entry. I am the room now. When they open the door, I will see again. The last few pages were blank but covered in deep indentations, as if the writer had pressed the pen so hard it tore into the paper. Emily was never found in any census or missing persons database, but many believe she's the same Emily whose name was found carved into the porch beam decades earlier, a room that should not exist. After Raymond's discovery, researchers returned to re-examine the original blueprints. What they found was unsettling. The sealed bedroom was never part of the plans. It didn't exist on any drawing. In fact, from the exterior, that part of the house should have been empty attic space. There was no visible window, no way to reach it from the outside. An architect concluded that the room must have been added illegally, sometime after the house was built, but how and when remained a mystery. It was as though the house grew the room itself, or someone created it to trap something inside. What came out? After the door was opened, things changed in the house. Neighbors began to report strange occurrences again. A black fog seeping from the upper windows, lights turning on upstairs, even when the power was cut. A shadowy figure standing in the window where no window should be. One woman swore she saw a girl in white walking in circles in the front yard, muttering to herself. When approached, she vanished like smoke in the wind. The activity intensified. Cameras failed. Workers refused to enter the second floor. Raymond, the contractor who opened the door, began experiencing nightmares. He dreamed of being in a room he couldn't leave. Blood dripping from the ceiling. A voice whispering, "You let it out." 2 weeks later, Raymond disappeared. His truck was found parked in front of the Ash Street house, engine off, keys inside. He hasn't been seen since. Sealing the room again. City officials ordered the room sealed once more. This time, they used steel reinforcements, welded plates, and poured concrete into the doorframe. The entire hallway was blocked off. Paranormal experts insisted it was too late. The opening had already happened. The energy released. Whatever had been trapped in that room was now part of the entire house. Some said it was a spirit. Others believed it was something older, something beyond death. The psychic's warnings. In 1997, 3 well-known psychics were brought to the house independently, each unaware of the other's experiences. Each one, upon approaching the second floor, refused to enter the hallway. One said, trembling, "There's something up there that doesn't see time the way we do." Another whispered, "It's not a ghost, it's a memory that became aware of itself." The third psychic passed out near the sealed room. When revived, she simply said, "She's still there, waiting, and she knows who opened the door." None of them ever returned. A room that watches. Visitors claim they feel watched when standing near the sealed hallway. One woman said her smartwatch glitched and displayed the word, "Open." Another reported hearing faint knocking from behind the wall, slow, steady, and in sets of 3. Construction workers assigned to monitor the structure refused to stay past dusk. They said the walls felt like they were breathing. A thermal camera taken to the upper floor showed a human-sized heat signature behind the sealed wall moving. But when the concrete was scanned, it was found to be completely solid. What was it? No one knows who sealed the room originally. No documentation remains. Some believe it was a parent locking away a child with dangerous psychic abilities. Others think a ritual was performed there, a failed attempt to summon something from beyond, and the symbols were part of a binding circle meant to hold it. But others go darker. They believe the room was a Gatawand. Emily wasn't a victim, but a vessel, that something used her, spoke through her, and when the room was sealed, it was to stop her from coming back. Whatever the truth is, the message remains clear. That room was meant to be forgotten. It was sealed for a reason, and opening it was a mistake. The psychic investigation. By the early 2000s, the house on Ash Street had become infamous not just in San Diego, but in ghost hunting circles across the country. Stories about the sealed room, the blood symbols, the vanishing contractor, and the electronics that melted in silence had drawn national attention. But while thrill seekers and amateur ghost hunters came and went, most were too terrified to stay long. In 2009, however, a professional team arrived. They weren't YouTubers, they weren't skeptics, they were psychics, and they had come to uncover what the house was hiding. The team, for sensitives, the group was led by Dr. Helen DeMarco, a respected parapsychologist with a background in neuroscience and psychic phenomena. She believed in the overlap of science and spiritual energy, and she was determined to document the house's secrets. She brought with her Aiden Moss, a clairvoyant with a history of tracking missing persons; Marie Talbot, an empath who claimed she could absorb the emotions of a place; Jonas Gray, a trance medium who could allow spirits to speak through him. The group had investigated over 30 known hauntings across the United States. They had faced poltergeists, possessions, and psychic scars from wars and tragedies, but nothing prepared them for the Ash Street house. Arrival and first reactions. They arrived just after noon. Immediately, all four commented on the atmosphere as if the air itself was heavy, pressing against their lungs. Jonas remarked that it felt like walking into a place mid-scream, frozen in time. Helen began her documentation, checking baseline electromagnetic fields, recording temperatures, and setting up cameras and microphones. The house appeared quiet, still. Then they entered the main room, central living space, just beneath the sealed hallway. That's when everything began to unravel. The collapse. Within 3 minutes of entering the room, Aiden clutched his head, staggering against the wall. "It's too loud," he whispered. "I can hear 1,000 voices at once." Marie vomited violently, doubling over and sobbing uncontrollably. "Someone was hurt here," she cried. "Not many someones. They never left." Jonas fainted. Not just a collapse, it dropped like a puppet whose strings were cut. Dr. Helen rushed to his side, checking his pulse. He was breathing, but deeply unconscious. His eyes fluttered beneath his lids. He was dreaming. But whatever he was seeing, it wasn't peaceful. His body trembled. His hands clenched. A low groan escaped his lips, a voice that was not his own. "It's still feeding." That's what he said, in a gravelly, deep tone. Then silence. The house reacts. Helen helped Aiden and Marie out of the room. They staggered to the front porch, gasping for air. Inside, Jonas slowly regained consciousness. When asked what he saw, his voice shook. "I was inside the walls, not behind them, inside them. Everything was red. Breathing. Something was in there with me, watching, smiling." He refused to return to that room for the rest of the day. The reading, Marie's vision. Later that evening, after several hours of rest, Marie agreed to sit quietly in the study to perform a deep, empathic reading. She entered a meditative state and allowed herself to connect with the house's emotional residue. What she experienced was horrific. She described sudden flashy snapshots of suffering. A little girl crying in a corner, her face covered in blood. A man screaming as he was dragged into a mirror. Shadows pressing against the ceiling, writhing like worms. A voice chanting in reverse, saying, "Let her in, let her in, let her in." Marie's nose began to bleed during the session. She collapsed and needed oxygen. Her final words before passing out, "She's still hungry. Contact Jonas the medium." Despite the trauma earlier, Jonas agreed to try channeling. He sat in a protective circle drawn in chalk, surrounded by candles. Dr. Helen recorded everything. Aiden monitored the EMF spikes which surged the moment Jonas closed his eyes. Within 2 minutes, Jonas went rigid. Then his mouth opened and a low voice spoke through him. The door was not to be opened, but he opened it, and now she walks again. Helen asked, "Who is she?" "The girl who became the gate, Emily." But not just Emily. Something came with her, something older. From between, it wears her face. Jonas's head snapped to the side, violently. The house is the wound. The room is the scar. The symbols were to keep it asleep. The candles blew out all at once. Jonas screamed and collapsed backward. The recording continued rolling. In the silence, a single voice whispered near the microphone, "You're next." The aftermath. The team packed up the next morning. None of them could sleep that night. Aiden reported hearing scratching at the door of their hotel room. Marie woke up with bruises on her arms she couldn't explain. Jonas wept silently in the car and refused to speak until they left the city. Dr. Helen compiled the DET audio files, EMF readings, written transcripts, and sent them to colleagues. Both files arrived corrupted. The hard drive Helen used to store the recordings fried completely within 48 hours. She was unable to recover a single piece of evidence. The report. Dr. Helen DeMarco later published a brief article in a fringe academic journal. Most dismissed it as paranormal nonsense, but a few details stood out. The Ash Street house contains a psychic structure unlike any recorded before. The energy is not residual. It is intelligent, active, and predatory. The sealed room was a containment point, and its opening released a dangerous entity. Further investigation is not recommended. She concluded with a haunting final note. It is not a haunting, it is a symbiosis between place and presence. The house is no longer architecture, it is appetite. Personal testimonies. The psychics refused to return to the house. In fact, they refused to work together again. Marie Talbot retired entirely from fieldwork. Aden moved to Alaska, stating that he wanted to be as far from that place as possible. Jonas disappeared from the public eye. A friend later revealed he had developed schizophrenic symptoms. He claimed voices followed him into dreams. He was committed to a private facility in 2013. Dr. Helen herself continued to research hauntings, but never again spoke about the Ash Street case in public. When contacted in 2017, she only said, "There are places in this world that should not be uncovered. That house, it remembers you. Even now, I have nightmares." What they uncovered. The psychic team's investigation revealed more than any camera ever could. They confirmed what survivors had always felt, that the house is alive in some incomprehensible way, that its energy is intelligent, malicious, and hungry, and that the spirit of the little girl Emila may not be alone. Rather, she may be a mask, a form, a vessel for something darker that entered this world long ago, and has never left. Some believe it is an ancient thought form, born of trauma and belief. Others believe it is an interdimensional parasitic sentient force that requires pain and fear to exist. Whatever the truth, one thing is clear. The house does not want to be studied, it wants to be obeyed. An ongoing danger. Since the psychic's visit, the house has grown quieter but not safe. People still report shadows in the windows. Lights flicker at night, and anyone who steps inside for more than a few minutes begins to feel watched. The room remains sealed, but the house itself has changed, as if something was stirred. And now it waits, not asleep, not fully awake, just hungry. The hidden blood-stained history. Behind every haunted house, there is often a history concealed from the public, a dark past buried beneath layers of silence, erased documents, and forgotten memories. The Ash Street house was no exception. For decades, rumors swirled about the house's origins, whispers of occult ceremonies, disappearances, and a cult that had once used the property for unspeakable rites. But it wasn't until a local historian named Marion Caldwell stumbled upon a sealed archive in the city's records office that the true story began to unravel. The discovery of the archives. Marion had been researching the early 1900s San Diego social clubs when she uncovered a collection of handwritten documents, letters, and photographs that had never been digitized or referenced in any public history. These archives contained meeting minutes from a secret society called the Brotherhood of the Veil, correspondence between its founder, a man named Alistair Crane, and various city officials, grainy photographs of masked figures gathered at a house matching the Ash Street address. Most shocking was a single, cryptic journal that appeared to be written by Crane himself. The Brotherhood of the Veil. The Brotherhood was founded in 1907 by Alistair Crane, a charismatic and enigmatic figure who claimed to have discovered truths beyond the veil of reality. The society's stated purpose was vague: to unlock the hidden power within the soul through ritual and sacrifice. But local legends spoke of darker practices, blood rites performed at midnight, human offerings to entities beyond our world, members disappearing under mysterious circumstances. None of these were officially documented until Marion found the handwritten minutes describing one such ceremony, the final ritual. On the night of October 31, 1912, the Brotherhood held what was described in their minutes as the last great rite. The journal entry, dated the following day, read in part, "The veil thinned as we gathered. The chosen were ready. The blood was drawn to the altar. We called upon the darkness, offering our souls, and in the silence he answered." Alistair disappeared into the night, swallowed by shadows no man should traverse. The ceremony took place precisely at the Ash Street house. Neighbors reported strange noises, screams, and unearthly howls that night. Afterward, Alistair Crane was never seen again. The vanishing founder. What happened to Crane remains a mystery. Some documents hinted at a pact gone wrong. Others suggested he was consumed by the very power he sought to control. Marion found a letter, penned in Crane's handwriting, dated just days before the ceremony. If this is my final entry, know that the veil is thinner than ever. I fear what may come, but there is no turning back. The house will remember. This chilling prophecy seemed to have come true. The bloodstains and symbols, the dried blood and strange symbols in the sealed bedroom align with the Brotherhood's rituals. Researchers cross-referenced the symbols with occult texts and found partial matches to ancient binding sigils designed to trap dark spirits or otherworldly invaders. The blood was likely used as part of these binding spells. It suggests the house was transformed into a prison for something unleashed during the last great rite, erasing the past. After Crane's disappearance, local authorities apparently took steps to erase the Brotherhood from history. Many records were destroyed or lost. Newspaper accounts were vague or censored. Marion believes the city's officials at the time were either complicit or terrified, possibly both. The Ash Street house was sold to a private family shortly after, and the sealed room was possibly created to contain the aftermath of the ritual. Legacy of fear. This dark history sheds new light on the house's haunting. It is not simply a place with restless spirits. It is a site of consecrated evil, where ancient forces were called, and one man's quest for power led to a catastrophe that still resonates. The house itself may be a locus of that original darkness, feeding off the pain and fear of those who have lived and died within its walls. Modern-day connections. The psychic's warnings about the house's appetite, and the vessel Emily take on new meaning. Could Emily be linked to this ancient ritual? Was she a descendant, or perhaps a later victim caught in the same cycle? Marion speculates that the entity trapped may not be a single spirit, but a demonic force anchored to the site by the Brotherhood's blood magic, an ongoing threat. The house is not just haunted, it is a dangerous site, still active after more than a century. Marion's research was halted abruptly when she began receiving anonymous threats, warning her to stop digging. Strange occurrences followed. Her home's lights flickered uncontrollably. She found dark symbols painted on her doorstep. One night, she heard footsteps outside her window, but found no one there. She ceased her investigation and moved away, but the knowledge remains. The warning. Marion's final note in her journal reads, "Some doors should never be opened. Some secrets should stay buried." The Ash Street house holds a darkness older than any of us, and it watches. The neighbor's tale. In every haunted house story, there's always someone who has seen the unexplainable firsthand, a neighbor, a passerby, someone who's not part of the house's internal history, but whose life became entwined with its dark presence. At Ash Street, that person was Mrs. Agnes Holloway, an elderly woman who had lived next door since 1954. Agnes was known in the neighborhood for her sharp memory and cautious demeanor, rarely speaking unless necessary. But when interviewed about the house, her voice trembled and her eyes held a haunted look. A shadow in the window. Agnes told a story she had never shared publicly until recent lie about an event that had forever changed her. One late evening, around 1978, she was sitting in her kitchen, preparing tea. The house on Ash Street stood quiet and dark across the street. Suddenly, she saw a figure, a silhouette through the upstairs window. But it was no ordinary figure. It appeared to be a person hanging from the chilinga, shadowy shape, suspended by the neck. Rushing to help, Agnes described the moment vividly. She dropped the kettle, heart pounding, and ran across the street, screaming for help. She banged on the front door and called out, but no one answered. The street was silent except for her own panic breaths. Rushing around the side of the house, she searched for signs of life. But there was no one. The figure was gone. No noose, no body, no trace. The police investigation. Agnes reported the incident to the police the next day. Officers searched the house and grounds thoroughly. They found nothing unusual, no signs of forced entry. No indications anyone had been inside recently. The sealed bedroom upstairs was still locked tight. The officers suggested Agnes may have been mistaken, perhaps a trick of the light or a shadow. But Agnes swore by her life. "I saw it. I saw someone hanging in that window." A pattern of sightings. Over the years, Agnes was not the only neighbor to witness strange phenomena. Other residents spoke of shadowy figures glimpsed in windows after dark, unexplained lights flickering in the upper floors, sounds of muffled crying drifting through the air late at night. One neighbor claimed to have seen a woman in white walking the yard, vanishing when approached. Though many dismissed these as imagination or tricks of the mind, the consistency of the reports painted a chilling picture. Agnes's own encounter. But the hanging figure was not the only terrifying event Agnes experienced. One summer night, as she closed her curtains, she noticed a pale face pressed against the glass just inches from her own. Frozen in fear, Agnes stared into the hollow eyes of the apparition. Then it whispered, barely audible, "Help me." The face disappeared before she could react. Why did the house target her? Agnes believes the house singled her out. She often felt watched, especially from the window facing Ash Street. She once caught a glimpse of a shadow standing silently outside her kitchen window only to find empty air when she blinked. Despite these experiences, Agnes never moved away. Instead, she stayed, determined to witness and survive whatever haunted the house. An unseen force. Agnes's story supports what others have suspected for decades. The Ash Street house doesn't just hold spirits inside its walls, it reaches beyond them, invading the lives of those nearby. The presence seems to extend its influence, pulling on the edges of reality around it. This unseen force is unpredictable, sometimes terrifyingly active, sometimes quietly lurking. The legacy of the hanging figure. Why the figure of a hanging person? Some speculate it's a representation of Aleister Crane, the cult founder who vanished after the final ritual. Others believe it to be a symbolic warning, an eternal echo of sacrifice and suffering bound to the house. Whatever the meaning, the vision of the hanging figure remains a chilling reminder of the house's violent past. Agnes's warning. Before her passing, Agnes made one final plea. Don't go near that house. It's not just walls and wood. It's something alive, something that doesn't want to be found. And if it shows you the hanging man, run. Her words continue to echo in the neighborhood, a caution from someone who saw what few dared to acknowledge. The invisible child. They say the worst kind of ghost is the one you cannot see, but can still hear. At the house on Ash Street, it began with laughter, soft, high-pitched, and innocent. A sound that didn't belong in a place so twisted by fear. But it was unmistakably a child's laugh, and it was only the beginning. First reports, a game with no player. The first credible reports came in 1996. A team of urban explorers entered the abandoned house late one night. The group, armed with camcorders and audio recorders, wanted to capture proof of the supernatural. Instead, they captured a chilling anomaly. In a room littered with dust and broken furniture, one of the explorers left a plastic ball near the doorway just to see if anything would happen. Minutes later, as the group explored the hallway, their camera captured the ball rolling slowly across the floor itself. Then came the laughter, a short giggle like a young child amused by a private joke. There was no one else in the house. Audio evidence. The audio from that night, later posted anonymously to a paranormal forum, was analyzed by multiple enthusiasts. The giggle was real, but what disturbed researchers most was the second voice, too faint for most to hear. slowed down and amplified. Beneath the childlike laughter was a whisper. "Let's play again." No one in the group remembered hearing that voice in person. Manifestations multiply. After the explorers' footage went viral, other visitors began to report similar events. Toys left in empty rooms moved to new places. Small handprints appeared on dusty glass and mirrors. Footsteps, too light to be adult, pitter-pattered across wooden floors late at night. One visitor swore she felt something tug on her coat, only to turn around and see no one there. In every case, the events were accompanied by a familiar sound. A child's giggle, sometimes delighted, sometimes cold. The Toy Box Incident. In 2003, a documentary crew entered the house for a TV pilot. They brought props, including an old toy chest filled with vintage dolls, trains, and wooden blocks. They placed the toy box in the main room, set up infrared cameras, and left the area sealed for the night. At 3:14 a.m., the cameras recorded the lid of the toy box opening on its own. Moments later, the block letters inside began to spell out a name. EMILY. Then, as the crew watched in horror through their remote monitor, a small handprint appeared on the inside of the glass lens. None of them returned the next day. A haunting pattern. Paranormal experts were divided. Was this child spirit the same Emily who appeared in the journal found beneath the floorboards? Or was this something else, a something pretending to be a child? Several psychics warned against interacting with the entity. "It wants you to think it's harmless," one medium said. But no child leaves cold spots that freeze the air. Indeed, people described sudden drops in temperature, and a strange scent in the air, a mixture of dust and sweet rot, like old candy gone bad. The mirror evidence. One of the most frightening recurring events involved bathroom mirrors. Several witnesses claimed to see tiny handprints, not full adult palms, but small, chubby finger sappier from the inside of the mirror. One woman who stayed overnight as part of a research group reported, "I went to wash my face. The mirror fogged up from the hot water, and when I looked up, there was a handprint on the other side, and writing. The fogged glass revealed the words, 'I see you.' The nursery that wasn't there." During a structural review in 2010, a floor plan survey revealed something unusual: a crawlspace between two upstairs bedrooms. That should not have existed. Investigators opened the sealed wall and found a tiny room no more than 6 feet across. Inside was a child's wooden rocking horse, a cracked porcelain doll, and a mobile hanging from the ceiling with faded stars and moons. There was no record of the room ever being constructed. No one remembered a nursery in that part of the house. One investigator, who refused to speak on record, said simply, "The air in there felt wrong, like something was still sitting in the corner, waiting." The voice on the tape. In 2015, a podcast team specializing in haunted locations spent the night inside the Ash Street house. They conducted a series of EVP, electronic voice phenomena sessions, asking questions and waiting for responses through static. One clip chilled everyone involved. A team member asked, "Are you a child?" The tape crackled. Then came a clear reply, "I used to be." That same night, the team's equipment malfunctioned. Their audio recorders corrupted, files disappeared, and the exit door slammed shut on its own, locking them in for hours. Innocent or imitation? Not all child spirits are benevolent. In occult lore, demonic entities are said to mimic the voices and appearances of children to disarm the living to invite trust, to lure victims closer. Some believe that the laughter in the Ash Street house is not that of Emily at all, but something older, using her image to mask its true form. After all, no one ever actually sees the child, only the effects of its presence. The tragedy of Emily. Yet some researchers continue to believe Emily was real, a girl perhaps caught in the aftermath of the cult's final ritual. Her diary, found beneath the floorboards, suggests she was drawn into the darknesses as a conduit. If she's still present, it may be because her spirit is trapped, forced to replay a loop of fear and confusion. One psychic described her as fragmented, like a broken doll, pieces of a girl scattered across time. Perhaps the laughter is genuine. Perhaps it's the only part of Emily that remains. The final incident, a visitor's experience. In 2019, a man named Robert Mays visited the house on a dare. He entered during the day, walked through each room, and felt nothing until he reached the hallway near the sealed bedroom. He heard a giggle. Then a small red ball rolled from the shadows and bumped into his foot. He turned to run, but the lights flickered off. In the dark, he heard running footsteps, light and rapid, circling him. Then a voice whispered into his ear, "Let's play forever." He sprinted out, never looking back. When he got home, he found a tiny handprint on the back of his neck and scratches that he couldn't explain. The house's child. Today, the legend of the invisible child remains one of the most unsettling aspects of the Ash Street haunting. Visitors still report hearing laughter in empty rooms, toys shifting locations, cold spots near mirrors, faint fingerprints that vanish after seconds, and always the same recurring sound. A giggle just behind them when no one is there. Whether it's a ghost, a demon, or something far stranger, one thing is clear. The child in the Ash Street house isn't gone. It's still playing, and it's waiting for someone new. When animals refuse to enter. Of all the mysteries surrounding the Ash Street house of cold rooms, invisible children, whispering voice, perhaps none are more disturbing than the way animals react to it. Unlike humans, animals don't reason or rationalize fear. They don't invent explanations for what they see or feel. They just know. And from the very beginning, they have always sensed something was very wrong with the house. The first sign, a cat that wouldn't cross the porch. In 1981, a woman named Lori Kemp, who lived 2 doors down, tried to bring her cat Buttons over for a short visit to the Ash Street house. While checking in on an elderly neighbor, as Lori stepped onto the porch, the cat, usually calm and affectionate, hissed violently, dug her claws into Lori's sweater, and leapt from her arms. Buttons ran straight down the street and hid under a car for hours. Lori would later say, "She'd never reacted like that to anything. It was as if she saw something something that made her want to run for her life." A pattern emerges. Over the decades, dozens of similar stories followed. Dogs pulling away on leashes, growling or whining as they passed the gate. Cats flattening their ears and refusing to move. One parrot reportedly screamed "get out" every time it was brought near the house's sidewalk. It wasn't just one species. All animals, dogs, cats, birds, even horse reacted to the house as if it radiated a natural warning. An invisible wall of danger. The shelter volunteers report. In 1994, a volunteer named Kevin Roth was delivering food to the Ash Street residents, which at the time was being rented by a couple unaware of its history. Kevin brought his dog, Scout, along for the ride. As they approached the house, Scout froze, tail between legs, ears down. He refused to move. Kevin encouraged him gently. That's when Scout began to growl, a deep, low, unrelenting rumble. Seconds later, Scout yelped in panic and lunged away, jerking his leash so hard Kevin nearly fell. He dragged Kevin back toward the van and wouldn't calm down for hours. "I've never seen him act like that before or since," Kevin said. "It was like he felt pure evil coming from that place. The dog that broke itself." The most terrifying incident came in 2002, when a rescue team investigated a disturbance at the house. After local teens reported screaming sounds, the team brought along a trained canine, a large German Shepherd named Rex, used in dozens of searches without fear. But when Rex entered the house's front hallway, something went wrong. He stopped, his ears perked up. He turned his head sharply to the right toward a closed door. Then, without warning, Rex howled in sheer panic and charged full speed into the wall. The dog knocked itself unconscious trying to escape what no one else could see. Rex survived but suffered trauma and refused to enter dark rooms for the rest of his life. Expert analysis. Animal behaviorists who reviewed the incident suggested Rex may have seen or heard something out of human range in infrasound, perhaps, or electromagnetic spikes. But paranormal experts offered a darker theory. Animals have a sixth sense when it comes to spiritual energy, said psychic medium Claire Rowan. They sense what we don't, and when that sense tells them to run, we should listen. A house that repels life. Some believe the house doesn't just attract death, it repels life. One vet tech who moved in temporarily while doing renovations brought along her two cats. Within hours, both were hiding, refusing to eat, hissing at empty corners of the room. At night, they scratched the floor near the front door as if begging to be let out. By the third day, the woman awoke to find both cats sitting in the bathtub, silent, pupils wide. She packed up and left that morning. The mute room. A particularly disturbing event occurred in 2011 when a cat named Milo went missing for 2 days. His owner, a woman who lived just behind the Ash Street house, eventually found Milo in the overgrown backyard curled in a bush, paralyzed with fear. When she brought him home, Milo was changed. He wouldn't meow anymore, wouldn't purr, wouldn't play. He'd just sit and stare at the wall across from her bedroom. Weeks passed, nothing changed. Then one night, she heard Milo hiss for the first time and found him clawing at the wall, as if something were moving behind it. Behavioral changes in pets. People who lived near the house long enough began to notice long-term changes in their pets' behavior. Dogs that were once playful became anxious and aggressive. Cats stopped grooming, refusing to use their litter boxes. Birds plucked their feathers and shrieked without cause. One woman's golden retriever began digging holes in the floor near the shared wall. With the Ash Street property, he wouldn't stop until she blocked the area off completely. What were they sensing? No one could say. But it was clear they were afraid. The eyes in the dark. In 2017, a local pet groomer was walking his terrier past the house late at night when the dog stopped cold. He pointed his flashlight toward the upper windowsill and saw what he described as two glowing red eyes, staring back at him from the second floor. When he blinked, they were gone. The dog yelped and dragged him back toward the car. He never walked that route again. Attempts to test the reaction. Several paranormal groups tried using animals in controlled tests. In one case, a group brought 5 leashed dogs to the property, stopping them 10 feet from the front porch. All 5 reacted violently. One vomited. One urinated on the spot. The others barked and tried to escape their handlers. The team documented everything on camera, and even skeptics had to admit the animal's behavior was extreme and consistent. The conclusion: they know. Animals trust their instincts. They don't need to understand what's haunting a place to know that something is deeply wrong. And every dog that barks, every cat that runs, every bird that shrieks is another warning, another chance to leave. The theory: a repellent force. What is it that drives animals into such terror? Some theorists believe the house emits a psychic repellent, a spiritual signal of pain and danger so strong that it triggers primal fear. Others suggest the entity in the house has a particular disdain for living creatures, perhaps due to the blood rituals once performed there. If it feeds on fear, as many believe, then animals may be its unwilling early detector sounding the alarm before the danger fully reveals itself. Final thoughts. To this day, no animal has peacefully entered the Ash Street house and remained unaffected. Even stray animals avoid it. Even birds do not nest in its eaves. It is as though nature itself has marked the housey a scar on the land, visible to every creature except us. But those who've listened to their animals' warnings, they never stayed long. And most of them are still alive. The daredevil overnight. In the age of social media, haunted houses have become magnets for thrill seekers and content creators alike. The Ash Street House, infamous for its dark history and supernatural activity, was no exception. Among the many stories surrounding the house, none captured public attention quite like the experience of a daring YouTuber who spent a night inside live streaming every moment to thousands of viewers. The arrival. His name was Jake Marshall, a young urban explorer with a popular channel dedicated to investigating haunted locations. With a following of over 1 million subscribers, Jake was known for his fearless attitude and his commitment to capturing authentic paranormal experiences. He announced his plan weeks in advance. "I'm spending the night at the Ash Street House. I'll be streaming live the entire time. No cuts, no breaks. We're going to see what's really going on inside this place." On the night of his adventure, Jake arrived at the house just as the sun dipped below the horizon. Armed with a high-definition camera, night vision equipment, and a steady battery of portable lights, he stepped through the creaking front door, greeting his viewers with a confident smile. Early hours, a calm before the storm. For the first few hours, Jake's livestream was calm. He toured the rooms, narrated the history of the house as he knew it, and invited his viewers to send in questions. He joked about the rumors and haunted legends, teasing the silence with humor. His viewers were entertained but eager for something more dramatic. At times, the lights flickered unexpectedly, and the temperature noticeably dropped, which Jake pointed out with nervous laughter. But nothing truly terrifying happened. The sealed bedroom. Around midnight, Jake approached the infamous sealed bedroom on the second floor, the one locked tight for over 40 years. With tools he had brought along, he managed to pry open the door. The camera feed wavered, and his breath hitched. Inside, the room was frozen cold. The walls were marked with dried blood stains and strange, arcane symbols. He swept his flashlight across the room, and for a fleeting moment, the camera captured a shadow darting across the far corner, too fast for the eye to catch. Jake gasped, but tried to keep his composure for the livestream audience. "Did you see that? Someone's here with me." The sudden terror. Moments after his discovery, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The lights began to flicker rapidly, plunging the room in and out of darkness. A low, guttural growl echoed around the room, coming from no discernible source. Jake's calm demeanor shattered. Suddenly, he screamed into the microphone, a blood-curdling yell that sent chills down the spines of thousands watching. The livestream abruptly cut out. The next morning, emergency responders found Jake just outside the house at dawn, disoriented and confused. His eyes were wide with terror, and his clothes were disheveled. When asked what had happened, Jake could only shake his head. He had no memory of the night's events, beyond his initial entry and moments near the sealed bedroom. Memory loss and aftermath. Over the following days, Jake reported recurring nightmares, shadowy figures, whispers calling his name, and the feeling of cold hands grasping his wrists. He sought medical help, but no physical cause was found for his amnesia. Paranormal experts theorized that he had experienced a spiritual assault, an encounter so intense it disrupted his consciousness and left him mentally fragmented. The live stream replay. Some viewers managed to save portions of Jake's live stream. The footage revealed eerie sounds, whispers layered under his voice, and strange visual distortions. At the moment his scream echoed, the video showed a dark shape looming over him, although it was never clearly defined. The warning. Jake himself has since warned others not to attempt what he did. The house is alive, it's watching, and it doesn't like being disturbed. Whatever you think is there, it's worse than you imagine. Government intervention. The Ash Street House had long been a source of fear and fascination for locals and thrill seekers alike. Its reputation as the most haunted house in America was sealed by chilling accounts, unexplained phenomena, and now viral videos. But behind the ghost stories and viral tales, there was a far more troubling real-time one involving government secrecy, intervention, and whispered cover-ups. The announcement to demolish. In 1987, city officials publicly announced plans to demolish the Ash Street house. The reasons given were the house's dangerous state of disrepair and its negative impact on the neighborhood's safety and property values. Local newspapers reported that the city council had unanimously approved the demolition, citing structural hazards and the disturbing events reported by residents. The decision was met with relief from some neighbors, who believed destroying the house would end the nightmares once and for all. Sudden halt. However, just days before the scheduled demolition, the operation came to an abrupt halt without any official explanation. Construction crews were pulled off the site, and the city quietly removed the demolition permits from public records. Questions from reporters and residents went unanswered. Whispers of a cover-up. The silence only fueled rumors. Whispers began to circulate that the halt wasn't due to structural concerns or neighborhood pressure, but something far more sinister. Several former city employees later revealed off the record that federal agents had visited the site, and that the FBI had taken over jurisdiction of the property. Secret files and classified documents. Interest in the Ash Street house reached the FBI's radar because of strange reports filed over the years, reports that included paranormal activity, unexplained disappearances, and strange electronic disturbances. An anonymous source leaked documents suggesting the FBI opened a top-secret investigation in the late 1970s into the house, codenamed Operation Veil. The files, heavily redacted but partially leaked, hinted at surveillance of the property, interviews with witnesses and paranormal investigators, tests involving electromagnetic and psychic phenomena. The government's motive. Why would the federal government get involved in a haunted house? Experts speculate several reasons. Containment of a threat. The house's history, tied to occult rituals and unexplained disappearances, might have led authorities to believe it housed a dangerous paranormal entity or artifact. National security concerns. Some believe the government suspected the house was a potential nexus for unknown energies, or phenomena that could affect communications or technology. Covering up incidents. Unexplained events linked to the house might have involved individuals connected to sensitive government projects or classified experiments. Testimonies from former agents. A retired FBI agent, speaking anonymously, revealed that the house had been monitored intermittently for decades. There were reports of things we couldn't explain, equipment malfunctioning, strange electromagnetic fields. Some agents reported feelings of unease or seeing shadows moving without source. Though skeptical, the agency kept the property under watch to prevent public panic and to study any potential threats discreetly. The decision to preserve. It is believed that the decision to preserve rather than destroy the house was driven by the desire to maintain control over whatever was inside. Demolishing the house might have released or disturbed forces the government could not contain or understand. Local reaction and urban legends. The secrecy deepened the mystery. Locals began spreading stories about black SUVs parked outside the house at night, and about men in suits questioning residents and visitors. The house became a magnet for conspiracy theories, rumors about secret government experiments, hidden bunkers or tunnels beneath the house, the FBI protecting evidence of the supernatural. Official silence. To this day, the FBI and other government agencies have refused to confirm or deny involvement with the property. Freedom of Information Act requests have yielded heavily redacted files or no records at all. The silence is often interpreted as tacit confirmation that there is more to the Ash Street house than the public knows. The last known government activity. In 2014, reports surfaced that federal agents removed unknown objects from the house in the dead of night. Neighbors heard loud noises and saw large crates being loaded into unmarked vans. No official statements were made, and the contents of the crates remain a mystery. What does the government know? The official story remains murky. Is the Ash Street house a dangerous paranormal hotspot? Is it a site of covert government research or containment? Or is it simply a very dark chapter in local history that the government wants to keep buried? No one knows for sure. The final word, a house under watch. Whatever the truth, the Ash Street house stands as a testament to secrets that governments keep secrets, that stir questions about what lies beyond human understanding. And while ghost stories entertain, the shadow of government intervention reminds us that some mysteries may be real, and some forces truly beyond control. Today the house still stands. The Ash Street house remains, stubborn and silent, a dark silhouette against the San Diego skyline. Its paint is peeling, windows boarded up, and the iron fence surrounding the property keeps most people at bay. Yet, despite the passage of time and the official warnings, the house refuses to fade into oblivion. The barricaded house. In recent years, city officials, concerned about trespassers and public safety, have taken steps to secure the property. The wrought iron gates have been reinforced with heavy locks. No trespassing signs are posted in bold letters, and surveillance cameras monitor the perimeter. Still, the house draws attention. Curious onlookers, thrill seekers, and paranormal enthusiasts often linger just beyond the fence, hoping for a glimpse of the unknown. Locals warn visitors, don't get too close. The house watches. It doesn't like strangers. Flickering lights in the darkness. One of the most persistent mysteries today is the flickering lights seen in the windows at night. There's no electricity running to the house, city records confirm the power was disconnected decades ago. Yet, neighbors often report flashes of light like a candle being blown out, or a light bulb turning on and off. At times, the flickering forms a pattern, brief pulses that some believe are messages or warnings. Witness accounts. Several people living nearby have come forward with similar stories. Maria, a nurse living across the street, recalls seeing lights moving upstairs in a room long sealed off. A group of teenagers dared to approach the house one night and claimed to have seen a shadowy figure at a second-floor window, illuminated briefly by flickering light. A delivery driver stopped on the street once saw a glow from the basement windows, followed by a sudden blackout as he passed. The sounds in the night, alongside the lights, strange sounds continue to emanate from the house. Soft whispers drifting on the wind, barely audible but distinct enough to send chills. Knocking and tapping, often on the boarded windows or doors, as if someone or something wants to get out. The faint, distant echo of children's laughter, sometimes joyful, sometimes eerie. A magnet for the brave and foolhardy. Despite warnings and local legends every year, brave souls or those hungry for internet fame attempt to enter the property. Most flee quickly after encountering unexplainable phenomena, cold spots, sudden noises, or feelings of overwhelming dread. One amateur investigator reported that the house's presence felt like a weight pressing on his chest, as though the building itself were alive and breathing. Urban exploration halted. The local police have increased patrols around the property due to repeated break-ins and vandalism attempts. In 2022, a group of explorers was arrested for trespassing after setting up overnight equipment. They claimed their recordings caught invisible entities moving through walls and ghostly figures peering from dark corners. Their footage sparked debate online, though skeptics argued it was staged. Regardless, the city's commitment to keeping people out has intensified. Theories about the lights. Paranormal experts suggest the flickering lights might be residual haunting echoes of past events repeating in time. the manifestation of spiritual energy trapped within the walls. Attempts by spirits or entities to communicate, using electromagnetic disturbances that mimic lighting patterns. Some have even speculated the lights are a form of warning signaling that the house remains dangerous and should be left alone. The house as a warning. Over a century after its first occupant vanished, the Ash Street house stands not just as a relic of the past, but as a stark reminder. A reminder that some places are marked by history and pain. That some secrets, once unearthed, do not rest quietly. That the boundary between this world and the next is fragile and sometimes it fractures. What lies beneath? There are still rumors that beneath the house, hidden tunnels or cryptic rooms remain unexplored. Occasional seismic surveys hint at unusual underground cavities, but no thorough excavation has ever been allowed. Some say those tunnels might hold answers to the house's dark power, or perhaps worse, a living mystery. In the end, the Ash Street house defies simple explanations. To some, it is a haunted relic, a place where the dead reach out and the living cannot find peace. To others, it is a government secret, a location where forces beyond human understanding were contained and possibly unleashed. But for everyone who gazes at it in the fading light, one thing is certain: the house is still there, still watching, still waiting. Final reflection. Maybe the Ash Street house is a mirror of our deepest fears of the unknown, of death, of the stories we refuse to forget. It stands as a testament to the mysteries that persist even in an age of technology and science. And if you ever find yourself nearby after dark, watch carefully, because in the flickering light behind boarded windows, the past might just be reaching out,